In our previous video, we created just a very simple application without any customizations, and we took a look at the Android Studio interface and the different things we can do on that interface. In this video, we're going to take a quick and simple look at how to do a button and have it clickable. We'll also take a quick look at the debugger, which is an outstanding learning tool. And while it can feel intimidating at first, the quicker you get a handle on the debugger, the better your life will be. So, first, this is kind of confusing. We have a lot of things going on. Let's focus on the interface. I did have to change mine from Android 5.0 to 4.4.2 because I just haven't updated my rendering engine. So if you get a message like that it can't display it, take a look at this drop-down and consider maybe you have to change the compatibility there. I'm going to double-click now on Activity GPS Plant. This will zoom it up so I can focus on what's going on right here. And we'll deal with layouts in a future video, but for now, let's just take a look at what we have here. I'm going to find a button, which I find under widgets. It's a little bit tricky to find just because they're not in alphabetical order, but nonetheless, I'm going to pick up the button. I'm simply going to drag it and drop it over to the right. Okay, new button. And I'm going to, first of all, change the text and also change the ID. It's important to change the ID as soon as you drop a widget onto the layout because the ID is what you're going to program against. And if you just have button, button 1, button 2, button 3, you're going to forget which is which. So let's make this BTN pause GPS. This is going to look a lot like the GPS Plant screen on plantplaces.com. I showed that layout in a previous video. So we're going to start with this button in the upper right corner. So BTN pause GPS, and then the text we're also going to want to change. Now, don't hardcode text. All text should be in a file called strings.xml. And the reason is we want to be internationalization friendly. This is very important because you have to consider that a large audience for your app is not going to be people, it's going to be an audience that does not speak English as a first language. So we want to think seriously about how to make our app internationalization friendly. And one way to do that is by putting everything, all of our text, in an XML file that we can easily swap out with a different file for a different language. As a matter of fact, the Android operating system does that for us if we name everything correctly. So to get to strings XML, it might not be as hard as it sounds. I'm just going to click the ellipsis here, and that's going to bring up a little window here where I can say new resource, new string value, resource name, I'm going to say LBL pause GPS, resource value, we'll just say pause. Let's not add any more words than we need. So let's just say pause. This is going to put it in strings XML. If we want to provide another language, we'll also have a file called strings XML, but the folder will be different. Instead of values, it will be values_ES for Spanish or values_FR for France. So nonetheless, just by associating a token with the label, that gives us this internationalization. Okay, so we have our string for the button, and we have a button identifier called BTN pause GPS. Okay, so the next thing I need is this onClick, and I'm going to say BTN pause GPS clicked. I can name this whatever I want as long as I don't have any spaces or special characters. Let's just call it BTN pause GPS clicked. Now highlight that and Control-C. Copy that into your clipboard. The reason why this is important is when we click this button, it's going to look for a method with that name, BTN pause GPS clicked. So I want to copy that into my buffer, and I want to save this screen. And now I want to double-click on the tab here again because, believe it or not, at this point we're all finished with this layout. Okay, I'm going to go to Java. And I'm going to go to uc.edu. I'm going to click on GPS Plant. This is the activity that's associated with that layout. In other words, this is the Java code that will run in association with that layout. And we know that because this line right here, set content view, that's line number 14. Set content view means we're going to start this GPS plant. It's going to attach to this layout. GPS plant, these two are aligned together. So that's where we need to put our button click handler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new method. Method. So a method in Java, I want to put it within the boundaries of the class. Public class GPS plant, then we have an open curly, and we have a closed curly down here. But I cannot put it within another method. So here are my other methods. So it has to go in one of these areas that are between methods, but within the class itself. Where it goes doesn't matter. Order is not important. It just cannot be within another method, and it has to be within the class itself. Let's go ahead and put it towards the bottom. I'm going to paste btn pause GPS clicked. Now a method it can't just have a name. We have to have an entire method signature. Method signature is an access modifier. In this case, it has to be public. A return type, in this case, it has to be void. Return type means what's going to happen when this method is finished. Is it going to return a value? Void means it's not going to return any value. The access modifier means who can call it. Can it be called from outside this class? So a method's kind of like a phone number. It's a phone number that we can dial to get to this behavior that we're about to create inside this method. Finally, when we call this phone number, are we going to pass anything in? That's what we call the implicit parameter. So I'm going to say view v. Okay, for a button click, the method signature has to look exactly like this. Access modifier public, return type void. The method name is whatever we put in that onClick attribute when we created the button on our layout. Finally, view, v. Okay, it doesn't know what view is. I'll put my cursor on it, hold Alt, press Enter, and say import, and that will fix that. Now I'm going to have an open curly and a closed curly. And this defines the boundary of the method. That means when this method is called, what is between the open and closed curly is going to run. Okay, so forgive my syntax here. I know this is a really goofy syntax, and I don't expect you to know what a toast is just yet. But a toast is a message that will pop up and go away. It's an easy way to just kind of show a quick message, but it's a really funny syntax. So don't worry about the capitalization and all the crazy stuff I'm about to do. Just know that a toast is a way to show a method that will go, a message rather, message that will go away on its own. We like things that go away on their own because it doesn't require any user interaction. So toast.makeText. Okay, context is this. Okay, message is button clicked. Okay, length is toast.lengthLong. And then we're going to say .show. Okay, again, toast appears in red, so Alt-Enter. No, looks like we got it. Okay, save. This is just going to show a message. Again, I know the syntax is kind of weird. I'm going to save, and this time I'm going to hit the little bug. Okay, and we'll give it a moment to re-render our application, and hopefully we'll see a button up top. Uh-oh. No, you go back up. It gives me a device chooser. If you have one that's running, go ahead and pick that. As a matter of fact, once you get an emulator up, if you find that your emulator is running slowly, once you have an emulator up, don't close it. Keep it up because it's going to make deployment to that emulator a lot faster. Now our app is up, and notice I'm going to click the pause button, and we have our message button clicked. So we know that our button click now works. Now the method that we wrote, honestly, is pretty simple. It's just showing a toast. Most methods are going to have a lot more stuff in them. And again, it's the stuff between the open and closed curly that's important. That's what's going to run when we call a method. When we have a lot of stuff, it's important to debug. Remember, I clicked on the bug, not the play. Clicking on the bug allows me to debug this app. which means I can click on line 48, or actually just to the right of line 48. I get this little kind of fuchsia colored line. And what that means is the program's going to run until it encounters that fuchsia colored line, which is something we're going to call a breakpoint. When it encounters that breakpoint, it's going to turn control over to me, and it's going to allow me to decide when to execute each line. I can walk through it. I can see what every line's doing. I even have some opportunity to change what those lines are doing. So I choose pause this time. And notice that that fuchsia colored line turns blue. And notice that the text doesn't appear down here yet because it's waiting for my interaction. So I click back, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to choose run and then step over, or I could choose resume program. Step over means execute this line one to the next. Resume program means go ahead, let the program continue to run. So I will go ahead and choose F9 and then quickly tab back over, and now you see that button clicked message appears. So if the debugger is of interest to you, I have a whole different video that describes that in more detail. I'll save the explanation for that because that is a topic of its own. But in this video, we've seen how easy it is to put a button on the application and then make a method that will be invoked when we click the button. I hope this has been helpful. We'll see you in the next video where we make the button look a little bit nicer and we play with layouts as well. Thank you.